Hi, thanks for joining me again. In this video, I'll be discussing ICT, which stands for Intra-Company Transfer Work Permit. This is an application for those who are individuals that have a business outside of Canada and either have a business in Canada or wish to establish one. But not everyone qualifies because some people say, I have a business outside, I have another business in Canada, is this ICT? And my answer is maybe. So how does it work? ICT has three main requirements. One is the two companies, so the company outside and the company in Canada, have to have what's called a qualifying relationship. The best way to show that these two companies have a qualified relationship is with the shares. And the shares have to be proportionate. And this is where many individuals I see when they submit it on their own, they make a mistake. Again, the most simplest way for me to explain it is if you are an owner outside of Canada and you owe 100%, then in Canada, you should be 100% owner because you're 100% here. Now, let me give you another example. It's you and your wife. You are 60% owner back home and your wife is 40%. What does it mean for in Canada? Does that mean it should be 60-40 as well? Does that mean your wife can be the 60 and you the 40? The answer is it has to be proportionate. So in the foreign company, you are majority shareholder. You're 60%, which means your vote has a higher, superior vote than your partner's. And so proportionately, it has to be the same in Canada. An example of this would be 80-20. 80%, you still have majority shares, and your partner, whether it be your wife or your business partner, is 20%. However, to make it as simple as possible, if at all possible, keep the shares the same. It's easier to explain to the officer, but it's not mandatory. The best way, again, to remember is the share power has to be proportionate. You cannot switch it around. If you're 60-40 here, remember to be 80-20 or 60-40 or 70-30 here because you have majority shares. Don't flip it around because now the two companies no longer have a qualifying relationship. Now, again, I've told you the most simplest way. I have many clients where a company owes another company, so how do we demonstrate that? That is for another video. The second requirement is that as an employee of the foreign company, you have to demonstrate that you have been operating that company for a minimum of 1 year. So many business owners say, well, I'm not an employee. How do I demonstrate that? That's a good question. We can demonstrate that as to when the company started or commenced, and then the transactions that happened. If it's been a dormant company, then you cannot say that you've been operating the company for a year. So again, the best way is an employee because you get a bi-weekly paycheck, and that demonstrates that you've been actively working. The third requirement, and that's also a very difficult and probably the highest reason why an officer refuses an application, is you have to demonstrate your duties. Are you an executive, managerial, or specialized knowledge? And so many business owners say, well, I'm the owner, so I must be an executive. And that's not necessarily it. An executive has specific job description, as does a managerial position, as does specialized knowledge. So if you choose the wrong knock, you just make the officer's job very easy, and they will say, we're rejecting the application based on the fact that you're not an executive. And that could be very confusing because you're like, well, I'm the only person on this business. I'm the one running it. I'm making all the decision. How am I not the executive? And so again, it's very detailed as to what the officers are looking for. So just to wrap it up, qualifying relationship, number 1 year of employment or commencement of the business that you've actively been operating. And the third one is the job duties, specialized knowledge, managerial, executive. These are the three main requirements to be eligible. If you've demonstrated those three, it doesn't necessarily mean your application is a slam dunk win. You still have a lot more to prove to the officer as to what you intend to do in Canada. If it's a brand new business, I highly recommend a business plan. Why must this business be operating? Why must you travel to Canada and operate this business? Why not hire a Canadian? These are questions that the officer needs answers to. Again, it's not a mandatory part of the application for you to qualify, but definitely you should answer these types of questions for the officer for the highest success possible. If this is your situation and if you have any questions, please do give me a call. Thank you, and until next time.